from 5,000 rupees today to what has become over $1.5 billion worth of assets under management.
Every poor person wanted to be the bad, evil, rich guy. Therefore, I say the world can only be changed by people who are young because you don't know what should not be done, what cannot be done. Poor people want to become rich. Entrepreneurship is the right way to go. This capital is creating the strength that India never had. Never invest in a bull-headed entrepreneur with no reflective. Yeah. Institution building is about making yourself irrelevant. He said, people come and ask me for money not to return. You are saying you will change rural India and return it also. I said, yes. That room committed around $100,000. Singapore dollars at that time, 45 lakhs if I remember correctly. So we have to just sacrifice 1% of our annual increase to change the world and make it like it has never been before since the time Homo sapiens started walking straight.
Welcome to another episode of the Money Talks. And today we have something beautiful happening. Because it isn't very often that you meet somebody who's literally built a category when there was none, literally built something with personal savings from 5,000 rupees today to what has become over $1.5 billion worth of assets under management, almost 10,000 employees, and a name across the world. Today's guest is just one of those very rare builders. He didn't wait for the startup ecosystem to mature. In fact, I don't even think he waited for it to start, right? He started before the startup ecosystem started. So without further ado, I can keep talking, and I think I'll finish the podcast on my own if I just keep mentioning the things that Vineet has done. But without further ado, I would love to welcome the founder, the chairman, and currently the vice chairman of the Aavishkaar Group, Vineet. Vineet, welcome to the Money Talks.
Thank you, Anirudh.
So Vineet, we've had the opportunity to be on a couple of video panels, but today was the first time I got a chance to meet you face to face. But you've had a very, very interesting journey, right? You started out in the eastern part of India, but you really grew up on the western part of India. So I would love for you to talk to us about the roots from where you started.
So I belong to Varanasi, actually a place called Ghazipur, 70 kilometers from Varanasi. But I was born in Jodhpur, Rajasthan. Most of my education was in Rajasthan. Once you are born in Rajasthan, so Jodhpur is pretty much, most people don't understand geography, but we are almost next to Pakistan border. So I was brought up seeing the jongas with young officers with black bandanas on their head. So we were very inspired. And my life's ambition was to be in army.
Achha.
That was the only thing that drove me. So that's really what I wanted to do. I was one of those rare guys who chose not to be an engineer or a doctor. Deliberately chose. I never gave an engineering exam ever in my life. And decided to go for army, but for some reason army didn't like me. So that's really.
I believe you tried 5 times.
Yeah. So I went after NDA, and I had this very unique habit that I will only try once for one wing. So I went for NDA once, went up to SSB, was rejected. Then I went to CDS, which is Combined Defense Services, you do after graduation. I went for Army, Air Force, Navy, and Short Commission, all the 4, and was rejected in all 4. So, and Army has a very sweet way of rejecting you, all the 4 wings. They tell you are too good for us. And I genuinely, because I'm an optimistic, positive guy, I took it very seriously.
So after attempting your hand at the army, what happened next?
So see, I graduated in 1991, not the most proudest year to graduate. India was really struggling. We had just mortgaged our gold to deal with our balance of payment, no jobs. I was basically bicycling around in Jodhpur when a friend's father, my friend called Jayesh Pati, his father saw me bicycling around. He said, Rai saab ka ladka jo hai, kuch karega nahi zindagi mein. There was an institute called Indian Institute of Forest Management. It has just advertised for people to apply. It's like a management course. At that time, nobody understood sustainability. This is India's first, or probably world's first sustainability institute. And he asked me, and he paid there was some 300 rupees or something as a demand draft. So he had actually prepared that, gave it to me, forced me to fill the form, and applied. And then he gave me Jayesh's book, my friend's books, and said, you really study this and give this exam. to just out of sheer fear of him, I gave that exam. I got an interview call, and I fell in love with the building. It is in Bhopal. It's over a lake, and it is one of the best architectural building. It has won every award in India's
Wow.
architecture. So I went for the interview. I don't know what they asked. I don't know what I responded because my education in forestry and sustainability was zero. But I got through.
Acha.
And it is an institute that pays you full scholarship at that time, 100% scholarship, both
Wow.
living and education. So, what better than that for a government service son who didn't have much hope that his father will pay for his education to get a full scholarship? So, I did my master's in what is known as postgraduate diploma in forestry management. It's a degree also, but we call it diploma, like most MBA
Yep.
institutes. And then one of my professors once said, if Vineet gets a job, I will start believing in God because I used to be very tardy in most
I,
things.
I think we saw this in Three Idiots as well.
I was one of the first one to get a job, so he was really shocked. And my job was in a forest in Odisha, which was very remote, and it was interesting to. But I was 21, 22. For me, chasing elephant and bear was excellent. I had a jeep, very exciting. I had 2,000 people reporting to me. So that was a very hard learning. 2,000 people, you are 22, and those 2,000 people came from very poor background. So I got exposed to a part of the world that I had never imagined existed. I mean, I came from a small town, Jodhpur or Jaipur. You see some poverty, you see a little bit of begging, but I had never seen people who never begged but could starve to death, especially in the forest. So that was quite an eye opener, and
Wow.
that's where two things I learned. Two things. One, poverty is not good. When we were young, we were told poor people are very nice, very good, large hearted, and rich people are evil. And my strange learning in the forests of Odisha was that every poor person wanted to be the bad, evil, rich guy. And so I said something was wrong in what I was taught about. And again, we're coming from a government background, we had no understanding. And I then looked at my whole family background. Nobody has ever done any business. So what I understood is to become rich, you have to do business, and poor want to be rich. And I thought maybe a worthwhile idea to make poor people rich. That's how my journey started.
Wow, that's. I think you have summarized what is intense learning of probably a decade almost, down to 2.5 minutes, which is incredible. But that's what I think 1998 is where you started as a CEO for the first time.
Yeah, so this is so basically I was living in the forest. I was very happy and excited, all with all these learnings, etc. And then I got married. My girlfriend became my wife, and remember 95, 96. It was quite not as
Yeah, girlfriend becoming wife. I mean, having girlfriend was a big thing.
yeah, the big things. The only unfortunate thing was my wife was from Vellum girls and a slightly very different background than me, even though coming from the government background. But she
How
was.
did you meet her, Swati?
Oh, she was actually a batch junior to me in IFM. So,
Okay.
so see, IFM was like a very fancy place. So while it was about forestry, it was as fancy as any five-star hotel. So living there, we had some exposure to forestry, but we were pretty rough for any real forestry. So when I landed up in the forest, it was like there are 4 snakes that can kill you in India. 3 were in my house. So that was a very different life. And when Swati landed up there, and my closest neighbor was living 3 kilometers away. And we had money. I used to manage cash. So I had 5 lakh rupees in my tijori in the house. And glass. It was very dangerous. And we were 24 by that time, and 25, I think. Swati survived 8-9 months, and then she said, "Listen, this is not the place I want to live. So you keep the wife or keep the job." I did a toss, and basically the wife.
Yeah, I don't think you did a toss.
Well, not a toss, but in reality, the situation was that this was a better choice to keep the wife. So then I went to IIM Ahmedabad. I mean, I don't think so. There was anybody wanted to hire a 25-year-old who spent 3.5 years in a forest. So IIM Ahmedabad was looking for a person who has worked for a corporate but lived in forest. I was the only Indian who qualified, so I landed up at IIM Ahmedabad. Did 8-9 months of
That has
research.
to be like a something really specific requirement, corporate and
So India didn't have a biodiversity law at that time.
acha,
So they were trying to make a excess benefit sharing mechanism.
acha.
Well, just to give you an idea, if you take a sample of soil from, let's say, somewhere, and take out microbes from there, then you can actually patent. That's the only living organism that you can patent.
Oh, I see.
My living. So India was seeing a lot of global pharma was sending sociologists
Okay.
and making them live with the tribals to see tribal patterns. What do tribals do? So sociologists will come and stay with the tribes and see what they do. For example, let's say a tribe has the habit of putting, if they have a headache, they will pick a certain kind of soil, put on their head. The takeaway was that those soil carry a microbe that has a pain relieving capability.
Okay.
So they will take that sample and then take the microbe out
And then patent
and
it.
then patent it, and it will then become intellectual property of the farmer. Now think about it: the hundreds or thousands of years of knowledge created by a local tribe
Yeah.
has got exported without you even knowing that you had identified that usage. The difference was capability, scientific capability, and so this is what the government had figured out at that time.
Oh, I see.
And they were trying to find how do you actually ask these guys, first, not to take the sample, second, if they do something like this, to do a benefit sharing.
Acha. With the tribe.
So, so they needed somebody who has some experience of both forest and corporate. Not that I was really qualified, but I was a research associate, so I joined. 8-9 months of research, I became reasonably knowledgeable, but I also realized I'm not cut out to actually sit and type papers. So I decided to quit. And the professor I was working with, Anil Gupta, asked me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I know what I don't want to do. What I want to do, I don't know." So he mentioned that Keshubhai Patel, who was the chief minister of Gujarat, was a farmer and he wanted to create something for the farmers. And IIM Ahmedabad has advised him to set up an incubator. So I did not know from Adams what an incubator meant. 97, there was nobody, none of us in
Yeah.
India knew anything about it.
The
So
only
he
incubators were in
gave
the
me a
hospital.
report. So the children incubator was. So he said not startups. He said innovations required incubation, and so I read that report from IIM Ahmedabad. I applied for the manager post. During the interview, which had the advisor to the chief minister and all, I was the last guy in at around 9 p.m. for the interview. And he asked me a question, "What is the incubator?" And I rattled out the whole report. And so he said, "CEO banega." So at 25, it looked like a very good position. I thought I had applied for manager. So I became the CEO, and it was a hard learning next 4 years because I had 6 additional chief secretary, 3 IIM Ahmedabad professor, and 3 public servants on my board, 12-member board, 1 CEO, and nobody else. So it was a hard learning, but I must admit the bureaucracy in government of Gujarat was very forward-looking. They tolerated somebody like me for 4 years, but I got some excellent exposure in how innovations happen, how to convert an innovation into business, and why capital is a necessity and capital that can take risk. So that's how I got introduced to the whole idea of when an innovator or an entrepreneur takes an innovation and tries to build a business, why does capital that supports it should be high risk taking?
Yeah.
So in 2001, I went back to my board and said, "Guys, I've just figured this out that you need to provide capital to these people to build companies." And
So until then, the incubator did not provide capital, just
no,
infrastructure.
no, no. We were there was no infrastructure also because my incubator was literally a virtual. So I used to go to the farmers, find their ideas, and then try to provide whatever service I can there. But then I got a lot of voluntary input because a lot of people. So, for example, we had a 3-wheel tractor. Now you need to build a 3-wheel tractor, which was a very crude, very good idea, very crudely executed. He used a Jeep sachet, used Jeep tires, but it was a tractor. And so my first question used to be Google had arrived, so I knew John Deere used to make 3-wheel tractors in
Yeah.
1940s. So why in 1998 am I actually supporting a three-wheel tractor? And the farmer explained to me that we have long, small land holdings, and a three-wheel tractor actually take care of the whole land. Well, a four-wheel tractor leaves a lot of land untilled. Then you have to again bring a bullock and plow. So that's why we do it. And there are a lot of voluntary engineers came and helped me with NID and others. So again, being a government institution, I could call on National Institute of Design, I can call on SIDBI, NABARD. So all that happened, but capital, I never provided any capital. And it looks very obvious. At that time, it was very unobvious. Only debt was available. So when I went back to my board and I said, "Hey guys, I have figured this out, and so why don't you give me 100 crores? I will give it away to people. They will start their businesses, and especially rural India and rural Gujarat.
2,100 crores is like
Very large amount of money. So it was the biggest money that I could imagine. And somebody asked me, "Do you know CAG?" I said, "Well, I don't, but you know about CAG, so you are there to handle it." So it became a little rough, and I thought my time is over, and I am the guy who has been sent by God to raise capital for rural India. See, when you're 29, all these stupid ideas come to your mind. So I quit in a huff. I actually, 1st March 2001, I resigned. And I come from a family where we act first, think later. So action to kar liya. Then I went back home and realized I only have 5,000 rupees of my savings. I mean, Sarkar doesn't pay you much in any case.
And especially at that period of time, I think.
Yeah, so I think 22,000 was my salary. I had saved 5,000. So, but I was completely convinced, and therefore I say the world can only be changed by people who are young, because you don't know what should not be done or what cannot be done. And so I was that young stupid guy who thought that I can raise money with no background, no capability, and no skill. So I actually have a lot of confidence in young people to change the world. Simply not because they are very good. It's simply because they don't know it cannot be done.
Yep. They can jump out of building, not where there's no parachute. They build one as they go down.
I see that sometimes theory like Darwin's theory that evolution takes place. You can believe in it very deeply and then jump off a cliff thinking you will become a bird by the time you hit the ground. That's what youth and naivety can do. Some little bit of theory and so a wrong practice.
That's where Wilgrow Innovations came up.
So Wilgrow was actually a strange thing, basically. I was running this institution called Gyan, which was probably India's first incubator. But then there was a lot of demand, and I had become a little bit of small-time celebrity because at that time I was the only Andho Mein Kana Raja, only guy to new incubation. So there was a demand from South India to start an incubator. Now, government of Gujarat won't allow me to actually go and start. So there is a young guy called Deval. He runs Dasra. Deval, as a 19 or 20-year-old, landed up in my house and he said, "Let's actually replicate what you're doing." And that's how we set up Wilgrow. And Paul Basil, who was my classmate actually from IFM.
Okay.
I called him up and said, "Paul, we are setting something up. Would you like to run and join?" And he became the first CEO. So basically, mine learnings, Deval's money, $100,000 I think he gave us, and Paul's leadership basically created Wilgrow.
Wow. And so the idea of Aavishkaar, right, and starting that, tell us a bit about, obviously 5,000 rupees in your bank account. So obviously it wasn't enough to start Aavishkaar.
Yeah. So basically with this 5,000, I started writing emails, whosoever I care to reach. One guy called me back. His name is Anant Nageshwaran. Anant is currently the chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister. So he randomly got a call. Mobile phone had just arrived. So I saw +65. I didn't know where it came from, but so he said, "Hey Vineet, my name is Anant Nageshwaran. I'm calling you from Singapore. I have got this email from you. You say I give you money, you give it to poor people to build a business, and if they return the money, you return it back." I said, "Yeah, theoretically, this is what I want to do." So he said, "People come and ask me for money not to return. You are saying you will change rural India and return it also." I said, "Yes." So he said, "Can you come to Singapore?" I said, भाई मेरे पास पैसा वैसा नहीं है. So he said, what if I send you a to and fro ticket? I said, well then, but where will I stay? So after thinking, he paused and then he said, okay, you stay with us. I think Ramya, his wife, was listening and he was calling on her. And she said, let him stay with us. So I landed my first trip outside India on somebody else's money, landed up in Singapore, went to his house, stayed with him. And in the evening, there was another guy called Arvind Singh who organized a get together where I was asked to make a presentation. 30, 40 Indians, Jayesh Parekh, Professor Mukul Asher, a lot of Indians, some non Indians also. And then Jayesh Parekh walked up to me after my whatever little presentation. I mean, I don't even remember what I said, but it must be some very stupid stuff. These were all bankers, a lot of understanding. He asked me, why did you come to Singapore? I said, to raise money. Then he said, why are you standing in one corner? I said, because I have said whatever I had to say. Now you guys have to. He said, that's now how fundraising is done. But anyway, he picked up a glass. He said, guys, this boy has come from India and he has come here to raise funds, not here to drink coffee and chai and go back. So I, Jayesh Parekh, commit $15,000. And that's how the whole story started. That room committed around $100,000, Singapore
Wow.
dollars at that time, 45 lakhs, if I remember correctly. And then they said, how will you take it back? And Jayesh Parekh said, sack la hai, bori leke jayega. So I said, I don't know. They said, Ferra ka naam suna hai? FEMA ka naam suna hai? Maine kaha, nahi. Said, go back, figure out how you will take, but $100,000 is committed by this room. So that's how the story
That
started.
literally must have been the first ever fund raised in India, right? I mean, for venture capital or early stage.
For early stage, because there was Infinity Ventures, Praveen Gandhi's angel fund, which was already there in some form, where all the bigwigs of Silicon Valley and Praveen Bhai and others have done. Then there was ICICI Venture. And then I think Chris Cap was already there. But these were very different structures.
E-Ventures was also coming out.
E-Ventures was also there. So I think there were 3, 4, but this was really, I mean, you can literally count on your hands.
I mean, how was it like? First, how was that moment like? You, obviously, I mean, person from Jodhpur, Orissa forest, Ahmedabad, and suddenly you're in Singapore and you now raise $100,000, which is
so only thing is I did not know that you get fees paid on a monthly basis or one time. So some of these things none of us were clear. Nobody knew. There was no course, no numbers, nothing.
Yeah.
So I was thinking 45 lakhs, 2% of that for 10 years. How would 20,000 or 90,000 rupees or something per year? How would I actually run this business? So my whole struggle was that. But when I started this fund, I had a more elaborate theory. Again, 29 years. So I'm a guy who write a theory, a very rough theory, and then actually genuinely start believing in it. So my theory was that, and this is where forestry comes in role. So in the forest, you hear of a term called ecosystem consistently. From the time you go in ecosystem. So what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem is not about wood or tree. It's not about, so forest is actually trees, herbs, shrubs, mammals, birds, everything. So my theory was that you have to create an ecosystem where small companies, big companies, corporates, money, capital, equity, debt, everything has to come together. People need to be educated, a lot of interaction, talent, academia. All this was my theory. Later on, I realized it was actually true when I got introduced to Silicon Valley. So I said, how about creating an entrepreneurial forest and to unleash the entrepreneurial energy, which will change India? Very stupid. Frankly, if you go back 2001, a lot of this, when I used to speak, I was myself not very confident. But the youth used to make me feel very confident. So I started a company called Intellecap exactly at the same time, intellectual capital. So I said venture capital need to be backed with intellectual capital. The problem is the company registration required 1 lakh rupees and I didn't have that. So my wife had got a 1 lakh rupee draft from her father when we got married because her father was confident I'll not deliver anything in life. So I literally convinced my wife to give me that 1 lakh. To invest in starting a company called Intellecap.
she was your angel investor.
She was my angel investor. In fact, she continues to be the largest shareholder in the holding company of Aavishkaar even today. But that 1 lakh made me set up this company, which completed my dream. I just did not know what to do after that. So when this commitment came through, and I started meeting lawyers to get the structure right, I realized 100,000 was the fees they were asking to set the structure up. So I said, man,
100,000 rupees or dollars?
dollars.
Wow.
So I won't name, but there's a gentleman partner who's still there. It's a very large law firm. At that time, they were also small. So I said 100,000. So rather me becoming the lawyer is a better thing. So classically, I started reading all the laws. I read Mauritius, I read Singapore, I read Indian laws. Then I structured a trust in India with the help of Mr. Modha. I don't know how many, if you know, there is a gentleman called Vishnu Varshne. Have you heard his name?
No.
He is known as the father of India's venture capital. So
Achha.
Vishnu Varshne was the first CEO of Gujarat Venture Fund Limited,
Okay.
which is technically India's first fund.
GVFL.
GVFL, yeah. So Vishnu Varshne was on my board in Gyan, and he was the one who told me, oh, what you're saying is called venture capital. I said, whatever capital, sir, this is what the world wants. So he was the one who helped me structure the trust free of cost. And then I got this commitment, and then I had to actually structure something in Singapore to bring it into India, which we did pretty much free of cost without any lawyers. We got a MAS, Ministry of Mass and Pro registration. I got an investment. I signed a PPM. I went to SEBI. SEBI was a long time but I got a SEBI registration without a legal support. Everything done by myself. And in 2002 December, I made my first investment, 10 lakh rupees for a 49% stake in a startup.
10 lakhs for 49%. Wow.
Because the promoter put in 1 lakh, I put in 10 lakh. No company, nothing. The company was registered with our money. And the idea was...
But honestly, Vineet, obviously this wasn't just venture capital. This was actually impact capital. So, in a world where people don't understand venture capital, circa 2001 India, I think stock markets were sort of coming out of that .com crash.
Yeah.
And then to say, hey, it's not just going to be venture capital, it's going to be impact capital, which is now, well, listen, the first objective is that there should be impact and then there should be a return. How were you doing this? India was at that time, I think FDs were at 10 or 12%.
Yeah.
So you're saying paisa double hota hai every 6 years.
Right.
In that, to talk about impact, venture, could you tell us about what was that like?
So I think, as I keep saying, I come from a family where we act first, think later. But when we think deeply, we get obsessed with our thinking. So I was so stupid that it did not occur to me that nobody will give me money. It just didn't occur to me. I was deeply convinced that I am the guy sent by God to raise this money, and I will do it. And my whole theory was that poor want to become rich, and the only way to become rich is to unleash, and this is what I wrote, unleashing entrepreneurial energy to solve the problem on the ground and make poor rich. And even today, Aavishkar's presentation starts with a slide. Poor people want to become rich. Entrepreneurship is the right way to go. Entrepreneurs can come from poor background or want to work with poor background. We will provide them capital, and they will then actually deliver the goods, and the world will change. This is a bit... I had no understanding of what entrepreneurial energy meant because but I knew that there will be people, and because I had seen in not-for-profit world, they were very committed people who have spent their lifetime. My own mentor, Vijay Mahajan, had actually started Pradhan, started Basics. Then I came across a guy called Vikram Akula who started SKS, and Vikram was struggling, and I worked with him, was one of the first investors in SKS as well, through somebody else, but... So I believe that a lot of people like me are trying to change the world. The biggest missing link was money. And maybe I am the right guy to provide that leverage because I realized I could also become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But the more difficult problem was finding money for them because I could see a lot of entrepreneurs. So I said, let me collect the money and give it to them and see who knows things may change. And I think it never occurred to me, I will fail. In fact, I was discussing with my wife. Today, I am more worried about failure than I ever was in 2001. And largely because I didn't understand the meaning of failure. So, and that's why I keep repeating, a 16-year-old or a 21-year-old or a 25-year-old has a much higher chance of changing the world than a 50-year-old, because by the time you're turning 50, you know so many reasons you can fail.
Yeah.
At 19, 20, you just simply don't know enough. And that's the right age there for changing the world. And therefore, youth is very important.
Youth is very wow. What an incredible story. I mean, one of the things that even stood out, I think, throughout this entire journey is that you were just figuring things out as they went along, and were trying to educate yourself versus rely on the education of others. Because you could have very well paid $100,000 in fees to that lawyer they were talking about, and he would have made the fund, but you would have had zero idea about what it took to what it took to build a fund. And I think a lot of confidence about yourself, I feel, also comes from the fact that you've actually done the job that you're now expecting others to do. Was that?
Yeah, so I think it's what you call a small entrepreneur mindset. So I was a very small guy. So doing it myself sounded far more logical than actually asking somebody else to do it. And that mindset also keeps you small because you want to do everything yourself. I started learning the second part of it also very early. Two things I realized. One, every investor of mine knew more about investing than I did. So that actually was very surprising as to why are they giving me money when most of them knew that, yeah. So the questions I used to get is, but तुमने तो कभी पैसा दिया नहीं है, you never managed money. And yet they gave me money, and they were managing somebody else's money in much larger quantity. So I couldn't fathom why they would give me money. So much later, 10 years later, I started interviewing these guys, asking, why did you give me money?
What did you find out?
So they said, Vineet, so I asked Jayesh Parekh, why did you give me money? Why would you actually give him money? A guy was a forester, usne kabhi zindagi mein paisa nahi. Why would you give him money? And he said, see, you came across very driven. And when somebody is trying to do something as unique as what you're doing, your personal drive was more important than your knowledge and skill about the job. And because without that drive, you will collapse 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line. That you have survived 25 years tells us that we were not fools. Yeah. We were smart enough to make that judgment. I think that's really what investing is. So the more I realized, it was not because I was very smart. It was not because I was saying the right things. I was very convincing because I was myself so convinced. I was not trying to convince them. Yeah. I was telling them, I am convinced, you give me your money, and if you don't give me your money, that's okay. I'll do it. I think that's really why they gave me money, even though they were better investors than me.
So what was the size of the first fund? Like the first fund when you started investing?
I started in 2002 and did probably the world's longest fundraise till 2007. So I did my first close in 2007. But I kept investing without closing. So I did all kind of... see, again, that's where I genuinely believe regulator has to understand when world is going through a change, you need to keep a very light regulation. And India is still, in my view, is over-regulating. So I am hopeful that Aavishkaar is a good example of supportive regulation, allowing me to do things. Every time I used to go and tell people, oh, I need $1 million, people used to turn back and say, hey, but you have got 50 lakh rupees. First you invest that and show us that you know how to invest. It's very difficult to explain this to an investor who is saying you're sitting on money, you have not done anything, and you want another 10 times of that money. So I think very important for us to do that. But stop there.
So in 2007 you do your first close, but you said your first investment was 2002.
So I had done 6 investments or 7 investments by the time I did my first close. We realized that to close, I need to have some size. And funnily, my first fund that I started with, I actually made a closure of a different fund. I did my first closure as my first fund. So while I was doing all these investments, Intellecap, which I had started up, I discovered something called microfinance in 2002-3 itself. I was not in. So this in 2001-2, the guidelines were such that a venture fund cannot invest in an NBFC.
Yes.
So so I had a venture fund, but I can't invest in an NBFC. And but I was actually supporting all the microfinance institution. Not only did we identify them, I was incubating, supporting, teaching microfinance entrepreneurs how to think about fundraise, etc. And these guys were not for profits, and I was trying to cajoling them to convert into for profit, saying that you guys require a lot of capital, you have to scale up. So I became very educated, and I was seen as a expert globally in microfinance, even though my knowledge of microfinance was quite limited. And as Vijay Mahajan told me one day, that your advantage is that you don't know much about microfinance and you don't know much about equity, but you are the most knowledgeable equity guy amongst those who know microfinance, and you are the most knowledgeable microfinance guy amongst those who know equity. So, so therefore, you can act as a bridge between us. And that led to, and I think again, I'll have to thank somebody called Nachiket Moore, Joint Managing Director of ICICI Bank at that time, who called me one day and said, Vineet, can you solve this problem of equity in microfinance? And I said, oh, you have this fund, why don't you invest? And I said, oh, under the law, I can't. He said, what if I give you $2 million? I said, wonderful. Give me $2 million. I will invest in microfinance equity. But it has to be structured in Mauritius. And so he said, oh, but okay, we'll probably route it or give it to you from some part of ICICI Bank outside India. I said, okay, that's perfect, but I have to come through Mauritius. And I don't know whether Nachiket was sure or not sure. He said, what I'll do is I'll make a public announcement of us investing in you. I'm not sure whether I can give you the money or not, but I'm making a public announcement. So there was a public announcement in Economic Times, ICICI Bank to invest in Aavishkaar, to set up a microfinance fund. Now, I didn't see any great value in that, but the day this announcement came, there is a Dutch institution called FMO, happened to be in India. They saw the announcement, and a gentleman called Marcel Postuma called me. Said, my name is Marcel Postuma. I'm calling from ICICI Bank office. We just read about this, and FMO wants to commit dollar to ICICI Bank. So my 2 million became overnight 4 million. And then IFC, there's a gentleman called Nicholas Vickery. He's actually the global, at that time he was a young guy. And Nicholas called me and said, okay, we would also like to consider joining. So I went from zero to $10 million in this new fund.
Meanwhile, the original one.
The original fund was still struggling to reach anywhere. So I closed this fund at $10 million. I was about to close. I was getting my suit stitched first time in my life. And I got a call from Nachiket saying, Vineet, I know the signing is in 3 days' time, but unfortunately ICICI Bank won't be able to participate because of some regulatory issues. And I still remember I had a drop of sweat rolling down my this thing. I said, man, it seems like my life is not about closing a fund ever. I called up all the investors and said, by the way, guys, ICICI Bank is not coming. And to my surprise, nobody backed out. So instead of 10 million, I closed the fund at $8 million and made my first investment. My second investment was Equitas.
First one was?
Share Microfinance. Okay. Second was Equitas Small Finance. Now it's a small finance bank.
Suryodaya was also...
Suryodaya, Utkarsh, Bellstar, lots of...
You might as well have funded all these
10 odd companies. First check, all of them first check. Some of them, I convinced the people to leave their jobs. And so basically, my whole idea was, can I convince high caliber people to step out of what they are doing, their comfort zone, go to difficult places, and we will provide everything. So I was not only just giving money. I actually built an entire incubation platform called Intellecap, where we used to run the microfinance institution for 6 months and then hand over the first branch to the incoming CEO.
How are you doing so many things? It's like...
I had too much energy.
Incredible.
Yeah, and I hired people. I had no money, so remember that. So because I had no money, I had to, and I had never done consulting also. So I started, but I was, as I said, I was a very confident guy. So I very quickly realized Intellecap requires high quality talent.
Hmm.
Uh, Indians won't join me. So I straight away went to Harvard Business School and others. And I started telling, I can offer you guys. I think we signed an agreement with HBS sometime in 2005 or 6 to offer HBS students an exposure to real India. They used to come to India, 7 students will come for 14 days. 7 days they will work for a large corporate, and 7 days they wanted to work in something which is very new or strange or largely what you call, they wanted to see some poverty, how to deal with it. And I said, okay, I'll show you, give you problems that are very complex that the best minds have to solve, and you'll have 7 days to work with us. And then I started hiring people from across the globe for 20,000 rupees. So I hired people from US, Europe, Germany, France, UK, Japan, Mongolia, China, and
At 20,000 rupees a month.
20,000 rupees a month. And standard salary, everybody will get 20,000 rupees, Indian or non Indian. And we were 40% foreign. Intellecap was 40% non Indians, whites, browns, yellows, and of course, Indian, 60% Indian. And until government of India figured out that these guys are hiring interns at very low price, they increased the price. So 2,50,000 is what you have to pay to bring a foreigner into India now. That was once that came through. I think it was 1 lakh at that time. It was too high, so I dropped that. So till 2010 or 11, we were pretty much 40-50% foreigners, and these were best of the best that I used to hire from across the globe to work for me for 2 years. So they will come, they will work for 2 years, then they will go back and do their MBAs and move on. And everything that people saw as not possible, I saw it as actually an opportunity to challenge
And
myself.
because you were also from the outside, right? So you just had a fresh perspective to all of it.
Yeah, so I think the biggest advantage was I was not a banker. I was a forester. So for me, I used to question every basic thinking as to why I cannot do it.
Yeah.
And I was born with this attitude that anything anybody says can't be done, it will convince me that then I have to do it. I must tell you that it's not the best trait to have. It just makes you keep taking more and more difficult tasks and make your life miserable. But you solve a lot of problems.
And I think obviously 2007 you sort of get this kickstart into both this microfinance and the equity side. When did things really turn a corner where you say, you know what, now I can really see that this ecosystem, this whole thing I'm trying to build? Because until even 2007, and I've spoken to many people in that era, we've done many podcasts. It's like people like they're still discovering what SHAs mean. I mean, SHAs was like thick booklets. I remember signing my first SHA in 2012, and it was like I think I was watching a movie. I think finished half the movie because we had to sign 6 copies in 6 copies, right? And it was a pretty. I mean, today everybody's just like one OTP and your Aadhaar e-signing and you're done. I don't think people remember how complex things used to be. But in your case, you were like predating that as well.
Yeah, so see, understanding about different terms. I actually distinctly remember running a workshop around what is a drag along ride, because people used to get super upset. They thought drag along means we will drag them from their home. So people said, what do you mean by you will drag me? And so I used to run a course on what is drag along ride, why it is not dragging you from home, why it is the last choice and not the first choice, and why it has to be done, etc., etc. So the level of education that existed till 2010 was very different level. But when that microfinance boom took place between 2007 and 2010, my fund went to become one of the world's best performing fund. We were 166% IRR or something like that. Some stupid number, which very incomprehensible. And I thought I used to walk like a peacock because I thought, I am the smartest guy in the world. Everybody's an idiot. I am the guy who did it. And some people warned me that what you see is, we don't really know if this is real. But the numbers were all there. There was money pouring in left, right, and center. And then one fateful day in 2010, my fund dropped from 166% IRR to 1% IRR because of a decision taken by Andhra Pradesh government.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So I was actually sitting on multiple $1 billion companies that all became zero overnight, and Good thing was because I came from nowhere, that fall did not crush me. It crushed a lot of people and their spirit. I looked upon around myself. It was a very devastating time for everybody. But I asked myself, do I believe in the poor and their ability to pay and their desire to pay? Answer is yes. Do I believe that microfinance continues to be a very large space? Answer is yes. So just because some government took a decision, should this sector evaporate? Answer is no. So then why should we not double up? So I'm the only guy in 2011 who reinvested in Utkarsh in Suryodaya while everybody
Wow,
said you're a fool.
conviction.
And then I actually went ahead and did the even more foolish thing. Every penny I had earned and raised between 2001 and 2012, I used to buy a company called Arohan in eastern India. Because my new fund, which I had raised in, the LPs were not so sure that you should invest any further money in microfinance. So I said, okay, if you don't allow me to invest funds money, how about if I use our money to buy this? And they said, go ahead and do it. And so we bought Arohan for 12 crores. That was every penny we have earned between 2001 and 2012, all put into
One company.
one company. We bought that company and we turned it around in 45 days, made it profitable. 12 crores we bought it, 28 crore was the asset. We have taken it to 7,000 crores now. And of course, the net worth has gone from 28 crore, 12 crores to now it is 2,100 odd crores. So,
What a bet.
yeah, it was a high risk, very, very high risk. I would have gone bankrupt personally. A lot of people questioned the logic of it, questioned our skill and capability to run
What
an
was the
operation.
logic of it?
The logic was that microfinance has gone through a credibility crisis because some of the things we were probably doing were not right. It's difficult to influence entrepreneurs to do everything because entrepreneurs always have a reason. This cannot be done because of this reason, that reason. I thought, again, this is naivete and foolishness. I believed that maybe I am the smart guy, and I had a gentleman called Manoj Nambiar. And remember, we were already running the pilots and handing over the businesses to others. So we said we can create a very transparent, very ethical, a very responsible institution, and this will become a showcase thing. So I never thought I'll make it very large. I thought we'll build a small institution, then we'll sell it. But once we went into it, we realized there are way too many complications. The first one was microfinance was almost cash logistics. So how do
Yeah.
you become a financial inclusion company from a cash logistics company? And we tried to solve them. And Arohan is a classical case study on how ideology can be gelled with technology to bring scale and transparency both.
And in these very different businesses, I mean, obviously, Arohan itself is a microfinance institution. You've got a venture capital fund, you've got Intellecap, and you've also got the investment vertical that invests only into microfinance. And so how are you managing these four things? Like, I mean, we tell most founders, and I'm sure you tell the same to your founders, like, hey, listen, do one thing at a time. This is India. But here we have, four companies. I think three out of the four doing relatively or really well. Maybe the microfinance investment part must have gone through a down cycle, but you doubled up, so you did really well over there. But how are you managing all of this at the same time? And
No,
what,
so I think over enthusiasm probably at times.
but still 24 hours in the day,
but
right?
Arun Dias, who's actually the one who joined me in 2001, once said, Vineet, we tell every entrepreneur of ours not to do too many things, but good we didn't stop you from doing it. I think two things. One, I didn't do everything myself.
Acha.
So I would have been a very bad guy running Arohan because I'm not designed to manage structures. Manoj Nambiar was. So one learning that I had is I walked away by trying to. So I learned very quickly as very early because I realized other people are smarter investors. They knew better. So I started collecting people who are smarter, better, and more educated and better exposed than me around myself. The other thing I realized is, which I kept asking people as to why did you give money to me? I had the ability to be very convinced about what I was doing. So not to find reasons why it will fail. I always focus on why it will succeed.
Yeah.
The second thing that actually worked very well for me was I was not very wary about a better person joining me. So I was quite happy if somebody was more experienced, was smarter than me, joining me. I also realized a lot of people don't want the buck to stop at them. They are far more capable than me, but mentally they would prefer somebody else to be the final fall guy. And so you can attract, just because you want to be the final fall guy, you can attract very talented, very high caliber people who may not want to lose everything.
Yeah.
And so, entrepreneurial, I was the entrepreneur, I was taking the fall guy downside risk, shielding them from the final fall. And that actually brought in a lot of very high quality,
Got it.
very talented people to me. So my success is largely not because of me. It was in spite of me. I was able to withdraw. So, sort of when we say in India, success come not because of the government, in spite of it, government should withdraw. I was the same guy. I had too much energy, too many ideas, but I had to tame my instincts and let others run the show rather than me.
And you said something very, very interesting because I think, and we were just discussing it while getting here, right? Like founders find it so hard to recruit, right? And in your case, you're saying, yes, I would want to recruit people who are better executors than me. This is a very common thing founders ask me. Why would they want to join me if they are better than me? And how would you answer that question?
So this is actually where founders don't understand why they are founders. Not everybody in the world want to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is convinced that so intelligence doesn't work all the time. Instinct, and that's why people should watch podcast of people like Saurabh Singh Shekhawat, who Ranveer Alibadia actually released
Put
it
a link to
yesterday.
that. Yeah.
Give that link also. That when you are a fighting machine, you don't think about this hour, that hour. That moment, that guy is only interested in saving himself, surviving. And an entrepreneur is that who knows when you are staring death in the face, how to survive. That's not the skill very qualified, very capable people have. And therefore they will join you.
I see.
So if I have golden handshakes, I wouldn't have actually done what I did. I did because I was living in a forest. So I think soft bed do not prepare you to sleep on hard beds. So the founder is actually doing the hard work of sleeping on the hard bed.
Yeah.
So that other people can join you and sleep in the soft bed. The more day you will understand it, you will realize you can attract 10 times better people at half the cost if you give them the safety net that they are seeking for. And safety net is your conviction.
Incredible. I think it's such, I'm gonna play this segment again, by the way, because it's so important to understand what you just said, especially for founders who feel that they cannot attract better talent, but like you said, like you give them a better canvas, but you're responsible for the painting, right?
I think most people limit their capability because the problems are in between their ears.
Yeah.
The outside world doesn't see it the way the founder is actually painting it to themselves. These are self-searching questions. These are not the questions that the other person is asking. So talent is not saying why I won't join.
Yeah.
You are putting this self-restriction.
That
Why would they join?
Yeah. And so I want to go back for a second and talk about the first investment back. Let's go back a little bit, 2002, 10 lakhs, 49%. What happened to that investment eventually?
So see, everything that could go wrong. I wrote my memo and 2 years later, the company was almost about to shut down. So I read my memo again. Everything I wrote as the strength in the company turned out to be the weakness. So we wrote, this is actually a stove burner making company. So the argument was this is more efficient, 30% more efficient, etc., blah, blah, blah. So that's why we made the investment. Now, when we made the investment, won't sell. So we said, okay, we'll go down to all the resellers as to why it's not selling. So one guy said, I said, man, this burner is 30% more efficient, etc. He said, yeah, that's a problem. I said, why is it a problem? I mean, the payback period is 2.5 months. It'll pay back. I mean, poor person should be very happy. He said, yeah, but sir, this is an off-the-shelf product. People come, they buy, they go. Now you have this product. I have to explain for 15 minutes. This is this. This is this. Who wants to do it? So either you do a lot of advertising, which we didn't have the money for, or this is not going to sell. So basically, my takeaway was all the things I thought is going to work for the company actually were making the company
Weaker.
uh,
Yeah.
and the other thing that I thought was the weakness in the company, which is that I had a 70-year-old innovator and a 69-year-old promoter, which we had written as the risk in our company that are this thing. So these two guys decided not to give up. So while we gave up, my whole investment committee said, Vineet, this is a write-off. But for me, it was my first investment. So I didn't want to give up. Those two gentlemen wanted to prove that. So this person, Mr. L.N.S. Mukundan, actually took it upon himself, saying, Vineet, your failure, my failure will lead to a failure of Aavishkaar. So I will do whatever. So he kept being at it. At the end of it, in 2008, we got our first exit at, I think, 45x my invested amount. I sold 1 lakh rupee worth of shares for 45 lakhs. And so, in that sense,
and that to an impact venture.
yeah.
Wow.
So that's why I say impact investing is not about getting lower return. It is actually about making a change for unpredictable returns. You do not know whether return is going to be high or low. It's unpredictable, which is not very different from venture capital.
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine called it adventure capital.
No, and I do want to take a little bit of a segue because I've done some impact investing myself. I'm an early investor in Tala, and I had some thesis in 2012 about, hey, we should do a little bit of impact. It will be 10% of the portfolio. Kuch karna chahiye. And in fact, I think every one of my impact ventures is actually an alpha to the portfolio. Somehow it just became, Tala just became this $10 billion, microfinance institution. And I just wanted to ask you, like, for most people, whenever they talk about impact, and I've seen it mispitched as well, that fund managers pitch it ki lower return, they always pitching the goodness. And I think, like you correctly said, it's not a charity, right? You need your money back, and you need to make sure those businesses are self-sustainable and are not perennially raising capital or like acting as a charity. How now that you've done this for almost 25 years, how do you now say what is impact capital or impact funding, and what should investors be expecting from this, both from return perspective as well as impact perspective?
So, see, the challenge and the opportunity is that so impact investing can give you more consistency in your portfolio, not necessarily better return, but consistency for sure. For three reasons. One, when you do an impact investment, you want that company to be sustainable and break even. You can't really be investing in a company that is consistently raising money to survive, for the simple reason that when you're making impact, you are actually working on somebody's trust on you.
Yeah.
Could be a farmer, could be actually a poor person, etc., etc. So sustainability is core. And so both the investor and the entrepreneur drives towards sustainability. That's actually point one. Because the company is sustainable, it will stay. Now, because it will stay, you're not going to lose your money. But your returns in those cases go down because in India right now, nobody wants to invest in profitable companies for a long period of time. You want very fast growth because you want looking for 10 to 100x returns. Now, these companies unfortunately won't give you those returns, and therefore they become problematic for a lot of investors, especially if you're looking at those kinds. In general, a good investment in an impact venture will give you between 2 and 5x.
For investment.
And there will be failures also, but 2 to 5x is a good number.
At a portfolio level? You're talking about,
No, I'm talking about individual level.
Okay.
So, which essentially makes the fund will, in the good case scenario, will give you 2.5x. In the bad scenario, might give you little less than 1 or 1x. Depends on dollar or rupee. Rupee generally it will give you more than 1x, but dollar might sometimes. So the challenge is At a portfolio level, it's not going to be the super lucrative.
Yeah.
You can get inch closer to 15-16%. But unless you actually just do pre-IPO or very late stage investing, which can also be done and sold as impact investing and is being done right now. So the more important thing is, and I think one has to look at impact investing in the context of where India is today. I mean, we have tariffs from across, we have threats of challenges, we had war on our shoulders. Now, if you think of impact investing within this context, what you are doing today is building the nation one brick at a time. And impact investing is really building the nation. So I'm the first investor in UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and we have built those companies from zero, picked up entrepreneurs who have never done a business, gave them the money when they had nothing. They bought the land also with our money.
Wow.
They have done 300 crore, 400 crore, 500 crore turnovers. Took 10, 12 years, but Zomato took 14 years to go for IPO. So take 10, 12 years. We made exits. HR Food Osam, we just exited first private dairy in Jharkhand. Milk Mantra, first private dairy in Odisha.
Just exited.
Yeah, we sold all these companies. Our returns are reasonable. I won't say in Milk Mantra we got 4x in one fund, I think 2x in another. In HR we got 2.5x dollar. I'm talking about dollar returns. After 12 years, which means we invested at 45, exited at 80, and still got to 2.5 times. So, but if you look at the IRRs, because of the long period of time, the IRRs don't look as exciting. I can make them exciting by saying, oh, my first investment actually gave me 37x return. But on the portfolio, because we kept investing in every round, on a portfolio level, it's 2.5. So that's the challenge. But at the same time, this capital is creating the strength that India never had.
Yeah.
And that really is. So what you're doing is you're doing nation building, still getting a consistent return. And let me remind also everybody that venture capital is also struggling to deliver these kind of returns.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
So venture capital and impact investing both are nation building activities. I mean, deep tech, 7-8 years, you have to actually figure out whether your product will work or not. It may give you 100x, but with the kind of challenges we are faced with in the world, there is global forces working to make deep tech fail.
Yeah.
And therefore, today is 2025. We have to look at these investments as pure nation building effort. And that's why government has to participate big time in it. But we as individuals and people, both in terms of time and capital, have to participate in it.
I mean, I think you encapsulated that so beautifully because it nation building, and like you said, these are typically, or you have to wait that 12 years, look at these things breaking out. On the opposite side, how are you evaluating a founder? Because I think many founders, two things could happen, right? One, you obviously have a founder that believes in the impact, but then peer pressure, right? Because everybody around me is burning lots of capital, is growing very fast, so I should also do the same thing. Or the person is just or the person maybe misconstrued about what impact finance is all about and what really I'm supposed to do with this money. How do you decipher that at the time of investment?
So see, in India, a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to be called impact entrepreneurs because they feel that they will then miss out the bus of attracting more capital. But India is the only market in the world where impact investing and the venture capital investing stand shoulder by shoulder in the same company, which again creates confusions because we may be pulling in different directions. But the third part is also true that impact investors and venture investors have now come together and they have started believing that a lot of our investments is toward nation building. So I'm not saying that they are actually philanthropists or we are philanthropists. We are all trying to make money, but we have to learn that unless you build an ecosystem, unless you actually create multiple success portfolio, it won't happen. The entrepreneurs, on the other hand, have a very unique challenge. They are the first time guys. So, and a lot of time the entrepreneurs get a lot of feedbacks, which are completely contradictory to what they are hearing. So they are very confused as well. I think from an investment point of view, therefore, two things I keep looking in. And when I talk to an entrepreneur, I ask them, do you know where you are going?
Okay.
And if the entrepreneur's answer is very crystal clear, both in terms of skill capability or where they are going, then I know this is the entrepreneur I want to back. When I say where you are going, I don't ask for the impact. Impact is actually an evaluation that I have to do, not the
Acha.
entrepreneur. The entrepreneur needs to tell me what he or she is building. So I am building this business and I know how to take it from here to here. That's very important for us to understand. My skill set to the entrepreneur is I'll tell him, I will never tell you where to go, but I will tell you not which turns not to take because I
Correct.
know those are dead ends. And the reason I have more skill than you on those is because I've invested in 100 companies. So I know which turn is going to lead a dead end. So don't go there.
I love the fact, and you said this when we were coming up in the elevator as well. Like, my job is to tell the entrepreneur what not to do, right? And I love. I mean, I'm going to use that for sure. And maybe I'll trademark it. Yes, said by Vineet. But is it sometimes difficult because you sometimes see the founder going, "Kya kar rahe ho? You can't you see that there is what's going to happen?"
So again, see, because I have been an entrepreneur myself, entrepreneur is super convinced about what they're doing. So that's the third part of it. You have to find whether the entrepreneur has the capability to reflect. An entrepreneur who says, I will use my head to break the wall.
Yeah.
And maybe very convinced that the head will stay and the wall will break is not an entrepreneur you want to invest. Because by logic is the head will break and the wall will stay is true. We know it. So if let's say the entrepreneur comes and says I'll break the wall with the head, your first question is no, that's not true. Logic doesn't say it, and the guy says you are a fool. I'll break it and then break his head. Now that's a very dangerous investment to make. So you can have a logical conversation early and try to understand whether the entrepreneur has reflective capability. So I love bull-headed entrepreneurs, but a bull-headed entrepreneur with no reflective capability is a complete no. Never invest in a bull-headed entrepreneur with no reflective
Love that.
capability.
Wow.
So keep 2-3 times you entertain, engage with that person. But if the entrepreneur continues to say that my head is stronger than this thing, then
I wish Vineet, we could have you for a few hours though, because there's just such a wealth of knowledge here. That getting said, obviously now you're deploying out of Fund 6, right? $150 million. You've now got totally about 1.45 billion under management, 75 plus investments, 50 plus exits. I mean, your exit portfolio could be a fund, could be a dream fund for most people, for most fund managers. And now you're preparing for Fund 7, which you're targeting to about 200 to 300 million. But at the same time, you're also taking what I'm seeing is that you're saying, hey, they've got all these companies plus the Aavishkaar Foundation, but except for the main holding company, everywhere else you've now got professionals running them. And this was a very conscious decision. We talked about it, but I think this has also been a very big challenge for many founders to finally say, you know what, this is just too big, or this is beyond my capability. How did you decide? Because that could really be a learning lesson for other founders, including myself, by the way.
So I think the biggest challenge we as founders have is what I said. I was very convinced, so I came here. But that same conviction can take me down.
Yeah.
So a large number of founders do not understand that they have to save themselves. They have to save themselves from themselves only. And the way you do it is because you become, as you get success, you become whimsical. You want to do things because you thought about it. So then you need to surround yourself with wisdom. So my first way of going about wisdom is I started looking for people who have very different skills from me. So for example, in every company of mine, the CEO is very different from me. I and the CEO probably are so chalk and cheese. Manoj Nambiar, our CEO of Arohan, I look like his secretary. In any meeting we walk in, everybody looks at Manoj and says, this guy is really the boss. This guy is the secretary. But he's a 6 feet tall, big guy, very handsome guy. But Manoj, when he walked into my office first time and he wanted to join us, it looked so easy for me because I realized here is a guy who is 10 times better qualified and smarter than me. And so is the right
And how
person.
did you recruit someone like that? Because obviously, are you using personal networks? I mean, what's the...
No, so 90% of the people reach out to me. I'm actually quite lucky that way. Manoj Nambiar just reached out to me and called me in 2010. He joined me on 17 June 2010. He and I both remember because that was my birthday. So 17 June 2010. But he reached out to me, made a call to me, Middle East number, and I was very scared of entrepreneurs. People calling me from Middle East. They wanted to come back, but their salaries were very large. They wanted. So I told Manoj, listen, yaar, you are calling me from Muscat or some Oman or somewhere. I don't really know whether you are interested. So if you're very keen, why don't you fly on your own cost and meet me here? So he said, okay. He flew down, met me. He walked in, very impressive guy. So I said, भाई मेरे पास तो salary वाली देने को नहीं है आपको. So he said, अच्छा, you tell me what is the salaries. I thought, and I said, 45 lakh I can pay you. So he started laughing. He said, okay, that's fine. I was very surprised because I knew his salary was at least 7 times of that. He said, Vineet, I'm not coming back to India because I want to earn money. I am coming here because I want to work with good people. I have done my research and it seems like you are an open and a good person, and that's why I want to. So I'm making the choice. And he became the CEO of our incubation platform called Intellecap. And then he came back and he said, Vineet, 3 months later, the balance sheet of the company tells me that my salary is more than last year's revenue. So I said, that's why I hired you. If I would have solved everything, then you wouldn't have been here, right? So your capability is what should change it. So I said, you have to earn your salary and earn some profit for me also. That's why I brought you. If I had the capability, you won't be here. And it's been 16 years of pure joy. Manoj and I have disagreed sometimes. But both of us know that whatever is our disagreement, when we agree, then it is like a cakewalk. He just is such a great executor. It's just a joy to watch from the sideline. So very high caliber people as CEOs. And these guys, then we started drafting the board and I started understanding the meaning of governance. Governance is not just about being a shareholder, but finding people who can actually challenge the management in a constructive manner.
Challenge the management in a constructive manner.
Yeah, because you can also put in idiotic stuff. So then I started looking around and I realized you need a mix at the board. So for example, HR is a specialized function. Audit is a specialized function. Chairman role is governance, leadership, and taking people along. And I found some incredible people. UK Sinha, ex-chairman of SEBI, who is the chairman of Aavishkaar Group. I did not know him. I just reached out when he retired and told him my story, and he said, "Yeah, maybe I'll consider." And it's been 7 years now, so incredible journey. DK Mittal, ex-secretary DFS. I met him, talked to him. What a wonderful person, and the quantum of value he's added to Arohan is just beyond belief. He forced us to become a tech-first company. Without him, we wouldn't have gone this far in tech. He pretty much threatened me, Vineet, I will shut down the company in case you don't get into collections and this thing through technology. Microfinance company, I said, how will it happen, etc. He said, nothing doing, you guys have to do it. And tough position, but in a very constructive manner. Rajat Nag, the chairman of Ashwa, he was the managing director of Asian Development Bank. He said, I will only work with you because, and credibility and trust is very important because independent chairmen, they can be very vulnerable. And what a lovely man, gives us a feedback. 3 days later, we realize he chastised us. We don't even come to know he was being negative on us. Takes 2 days, 3 days to figure out that the guy was telling us something which is not pleasant. So those kinds of skills. And how will you, I won't get, these people actually take just pittance for the capability we get. Our board meetings go on for 2 days. I don't remember when was my investors ever spoke in a board meeting and when I as a promoter spoke in my board meeting. The independents run the show.
Wow. And I think it's incredible that the way you're building this ecosystem, it almost seems like you're like, even if I'm not around, or even if I decide to step back and let's say go back to the forest, right? That this thing should run on its own, sustainable the way I want my investments to run.
So institution building is about making yourself irrelevant.
Yeah.
making yourself relevant is a very dangerous way of building an institution. I think I have done a reasonable job at Intellecap. It runs without me. My involvement is very limited. I don't think so. Arohan actually needs me, except when we run into serious trouble. It doesn't require me. I still am probably 50% relevant to the investing side, which I have to work hard to make myself irrelevant. So my next 2 years, we will be 25 years actually into 2027, 2002 if I take that as a starting time. Even though I quit in 2001 and started in 2001, 2002 was the right. 2027. So I'm actually working very hard to make myself reasonably irrelevant in all the operating businesses by 2027.
And I think Swati has now taken the chairman role, right?
Swati doesn't like to actually be in the limelight. She hates limelight, and so her role has been she's on the board. She has a lot of interest in every part of the business, but generally on a very private basis. So she likes the foundation side of it.
Okay.
And the foundation is something that I'm personally very, very passionate. So a larger percentage of my time will go in the foundation. We don't make so much money that we can actually make the foundation spend 100 or 200 crores every year. We are spending right now 5 crores of our CSR capital in the foundation. But again, I have taken a very ambitious goal. We want to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem in Eastern UP. And I
And
come from there.
How are you doing? How is the?
Yeah, so it all started during COVID, and I actually looked up. I come from Eastern UP. My father kept saying that, "What have you contributed?" I built a bank, Utkarsh Bank, with Govind Singh, so I thought I had done my contribution. But I realized, and I did some statistics. So I realized India's per capita GDP is around 2 lakh. UP is at 1 lakh. Eastern UP is around 40,000.
Wow.
Now, 8 crore people, roughly at around 45,000 per capita GDP, they are pulling down whole of India. It's an agrarian society, almost nothing on entrepreneurial side. So, and then I started looking at the Human Development Index, and the Human Development Index is very questionable. I mean, we are actually at sub-Saharan Africa level in UP. This is the world's most fertile land. So there is something completely incongruous there. And so I said, if I come from there, and we have been building entrepreneurial ecosystem all over India and Africa and Southeast Asia, and Diya Tale Andhera. So he said, and I also realized that commercial capital in the manner that Aavishkaar operates now is very difficult to do it with commercial capital. So we started with our CSR capital, and I said, we have to go structurally. This is a generational change. So the children should start believing that there is an entrepreneurial future. So we launched a business plan competition for all government schools and government colleges. And instead
in
of
Eastern UP.
in Eastern UP, 21 districts. We are operating in 21 districts now. We basically go to colleges and schools and tell the principals, why don't you ask your students to participate in this? Very difficult thing. Now we have got government support, but earlier we were doing it privately. And then the children participate. We give them a lot of awards, laptops, awards, etc., to make them feel that money will hit their bank account even in this activity. We are also then asking them to look at problems around them. So Jal Kumbhi is covering your Jal Kumbhi is I forgot the English name, but it's a plant that basically it's a weed that covers the water bodies. And then can you use that Jal Kumbhi to actually produce a product? So all these kinds of ideas, we make them work. So solve the problem and think about making money. Of course, ChatGPT helps a lot of people now, and kids are also know ChatGPT, but they come up with good ideas. Then we do district level competition, and then we do a state level competition. And some of these guys actually in Startup Mahakumbh, a team we trained actually won the 4th award.
Wow.
From Devariya. Just imagine, this was the only government school in top 100 in Startup Mahakumbh. So that's actually one part of it. The second part of it, we pick entrepreneurs. So we want to actually incubate 1,000 entrepreneurs in Eastern UP. We catch them very crude ideas like, sir, मेरे को 2 ट्रैक्टर खरीदने हैं और मैं उसको अपनी 5 लोग को नौकरी दूंगा और उसको डबल कर दूंगा. And we give away 3-4 lakh as grant and see what the person does. High risk, may not do anything, may use it. Surprisingly, we have not seen anything negative happened till now. We have supported 45 entrepreneurs with different capable.
And do they have to give the money back, or this is just a grant?
So we are telling them that we are giving you this money. When you become successful, return the money so that I can give more money to other people. But this is not an obligation.
Okay.
This is a moral obligation, but not a literally as a grant. So we've done to 45 entrepreneurs. Our ambition is to take it to 1,000 entrepreneurs. The third is to build a social venture fund that will only invest in UP. 500 crore. That's the third. And the fourth thing that we are doing is essentially trying to build a very large. I want to actually build a sports incubator, advanced manufacturing incubator, and a social incubator. So we have signed agreements with Santa Clara University, Miller Center for Entrepreneurship on the social entrepreneur side. We have signed agreement. We are signing in the process of signing agreement with Wilcro, with IRMA, Institute of Rural Management, with BM Minjal. All these guys have strong incubators. And we are trying to see if we can bring the skills and capabilities to Eastern UP. In addition to the work that we are doing, I'm also actually on the Chief Minister's Economic.
That just happened recently.
Yeah, ESE. So I got some access to the government, at least to see. I'm working on agriculture and startups. So hopefully that work would actually allow me to.
I almost want to say that the problems better watch out because Vineet Rai is coming.
Well, I hope so. आपके मुंह में घी शक्कर.
I think I have so many questions, so many things to ask, but I know you have a hard stop today. But so I'm gonna personally ask you and invite you to come back again. I think and hopefully in the next year only, because I think this venture you're talking about is just sounding so interesting. I would love if this foundation takes any external capital to be a part of this. But just as a part of our CSR activities, but it really, I am amazed. Been looking from the outside, purely impact. You're always thinking, these guys must be just thinking the world is just all full of fluff and roses, right? And then you have this, you have someone like you who's just full of grit, and has got this amazingly incredible vision, an incredible drive to really do something, to build an ecosystem. And I love the way you describe the ecosystem, probably. And like you said, maybe the forest helped with that. I'm truly amazed. I think I forgot for a moment there that I wasn't talking to the Vineet Rai. He's experienced 25. I was talking to like an entrepreneur who's like 25 years old and really excited about starting something new. So thank you so much for your time, Vineet. I do have, however, before we end today, I do have my rapid fire question, which is what I was just turning to. So do you need to take a break, or can we go to rapid fire?
I can go.
Okay, good. And then I'm going to ask you to summarize our today's conversation. Right? So, okay. Rapid fire is simple. I'll ask you a question, whatever first comes to mind, right? So what's the first thing you do as soon as you wake up, the first thing you do as soon as your eyes are open?
Unfortunately, pick up the phone.
And when you pick up the phone, what's the one app you're completely obsessed with at this point?
WhatsApp.
Okay. According to you, right, what is one of the most overrated sectors in investing at the moment, or venture investing at the moment?
That's a tough one. I'll pass that. I don't think so. Any sector is overrated. Entrepreneurs are great. So in every sector, you will have great entrepreneurs. So I don't want to run.
No, not more like the entrepreneur, but like everybody's just talking about this as if it's going to be the next.
I mean, see, everything is a flavor of the year. So something comes. AI right now is the hottest topic. My gut feel says that a large amount of AI investing is done. It's like people trying to reinvent Google.
Yeah.
So we keep chasing, sometimes not leading. I know AI is going to make a massive difference to the world. And there is probably things riding on AI that might actually be the right place to invest.
The applied AI.
Applied AI.
So, and do you think that is probably the most underrated sector, or do you have another underrated sector? What's the most underrated thing right now? People are not realizing it's going to be huge, but it's.
I think I think there is an emerging interest in some of those areas which are underrated, which is essentially the defense tech or dual-use technology. Dual-use technology has a very massive, both strategic as well as scale potential in India. where you can use for civilian as well as military usage. That I think is going to be a very large sector.
So, with that, I would like to ask you, what's three words you would use to describe the Indian startup ecosystem today?
Uh, Very passionate, very confident, uh, and a little shallow. Mm.
Confident, passionate, shallow. Like that.
Mm.
Okay. What's one book, and you're a reader, as you said. What's one book that you always keep going back to? Or, that's a consistent book in your life that you've always gone back to, or you consistently read or refer to.
Mahabharat, so different parts of Mahabharat. I have pretty much read everything. Lately, I have started the Gita part of
Mm.
Mahabharat. Is actually I've been reading that, but just the war and the family.
Yeah.
There's so many lessons from an investing point of view, from a life point of view. It's just incredible. So I was obsessed with war because I wanted to join army. So I've read the 18 days some 1,000 times, and just incredible small stories. Those small wars. I think Satyaki versus Drishtadamna, which is Kritvarma actually.
Is there a specific series of books that you're reading, or is it?
No, I actually go different parts. So now there is actually lots of. I prefer to read in Hindi because that gives me more flavor. The English part doesn't give me that excitement. But if you look at those episodes within the episodes and the reasons why they are happening, it's just amazing. For example, nobody knows that in Mahabharat, Satyaki actually was the only Yaduvanshi other than Krishna who fought from Pandav's side. Most people don't know this. Satyaki was Arjun's shishya
Yeah.
and his friend, so he fought from this side, while the entire army of Krishna fought from Kaurav's side.
Yeah.
So it's quite fascinating of how these things happen, why they happen.
In fact, I feel, and one of my favorite books or favorite, stories, obviously Mahabharata, not just a story, it's like this amazing epic, is that whenever you go back and see, and there's this amazing show that I saw during COVID called, it's when all the Pandavas and Kauravas have died and they reach the court of Chandragupta, and you realize that everybody thought they were right. Every person, Duryodhan thought he was right, and nobody says, maybe except for Ashwathama, who believes what he did at the end was incorrect. Nobody else believes that they were that they were not right, and everyone had their own reasons to say why they were right.
That's what you face when you exit a company. The investors, the entrepreneurs, everybody believes that they were the reason for the success.
Yeah.
Not knowing the success or the failure was preordained.
Yeah. Wow. What's one book you're currently obsessed with? A new book that you currently are reading, or you would recommend someone to read that you recently read?
I was reading Veer Savarkar, which has just been. It's actually around for 2-3 years now. More so just to understand Savarkar. I was trying to see what was his reasons. I mean, he's a very strong personality, very strong views, completely antithesis of Mahatma Gandhi, and was pretty much similar background. He was also a lawyer, and a very long-serving Kala Pani.
Yeah.
So he suffered quite a lot. His Shama petitions, or basically forgive petitions, are quite famous. But for a person to go through that kind of pain, survive, write, read, have very strong opinions. Some, if in today's India, you feel that they were extreme. So why was he what he was, and Hindu Mahasabha, why he created it, what its genesis, etc. So I also think history is always written by the victor.
Yeah,
so
that's so true.
Yeah, it's actually twisted. So what you read and what you know is quite twisted, and both sides of the story needs to be understood.
And I think I'm going to ask this question. Let's see. If you could be any superhero, right? Who would you be?
Hanumanji.
Hanumanji.
That's the ultimate superhero. There's no other superhero.
Who's also supposed to be still alive.
Yeah, still alive. Yeah.
I think Vineet, I could not end this conversation today on a better note. Truly has been eye opening. I think I understood impact. Like I said, I've dabbled in impact a little bit. I've got a fair bit of success, maybe not a lot, but fair bit of success over there. But I was truly amazed at the level of thought, at the level of conviction, and the level of maybe the magnanimous ecosystem building with which you started this. I think many venture capital funds may not have thought at that level of scale that you've thought about impact, and at a time when you and like you said, impact and venture are colliding. They're also probably because they both started almost at the same time in India. You led the impact, and you had venture starting right next door. So thank you so much for sharing so openly. I wish I could have had you for another hour, but I know you have to leave. But if there's any final thoughts you would like to leave us with.
This is for the audience. 2030 is a year when sustainable development goals will be reached. This was actually a vision created in 2015 by United Nations. 193 presidents and prime ministers of the world signed it. And this is a great vision, a vision of a world without hunger, without poverty, without inequity. Now, we are not going to be there in 2030. But to me, we require $2.5 trillion every year to be invested in impact for that to be achieved. It's a very large number, but it's a very small number. The world has $400 trillion of capital. So we have to just sacrifice 1% of our annual increase to change the world and make it like it has never been before since the time Homo sapiens started walking straight. And each one of you could be the harbinger of that future. So do participate if you can in changing the world and making it be as equal as it could be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vineet, once again. And like I said, I'm definitely taking a cue and reserving a seat with you, right, to have you back at the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.